Kayleigh, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. So, my first question for you is what is the most common misconceptions about sharks?
Well, I think probably the most common misconception about sharks is that they are man-eating monsters and they are out to get humans and look at humans as a food source, which is definitely not the case. Don't get me wrong, these animals are not little puppy dogs. They are wild animals and apex predators. But on average, only about 10 people per year around the world die from sharks. In contrast, though, another misconception is that there are plenty of sharks when studies show that populations are decreasing. And in comparison, humans kill around 100 million sharks per year. And they think the numbers could actually be even higher than that. So, huge misconceptions about sharks, their behavior, and how many there are in the ocean.
Wow. So, how did you get into the line of work that you are currently in?
Yeah, so I grew up on the East Coast of the US, outside of Philadelphia, and I grew up going to the Jersey Shore. So I really always loved the beach and would grow up going there every summer. And when I was young, I really loved, watching The Little Mermaid and Free Willy. And I would go on whale watches off the East Coast with my dad. And so I always loved the ocean, but didn't necessarily think that there was a possibility of a future working in the ocean. I was definitely wrong. And when I moved to Hawaii in 2012, after I graduated college, I was fully surrounded by the water. So it was then pretty undeniable that that's what I wanted to do with my time. And so I started with scuba diving. I got my dive master, kind of worked my way up through that and was working in scuba diving. Then I started working with sharks specifically because I really fell in love with them. They're just like really beautiful and really powerful, really graceful in the water as well. And there's so many misconceptions about them, they're so misunderstood. And so from there, I just really wanted to be around them and be able to speak up for them.
There is this misconception about sharks. We've all seen Jaws, we've heard, various stories about sharks, whether they're based on truth or not. But you must have had the first experience when you went into the water with a shark. Were you not terrified, or did you know, like, deep inside you that it would be okay?
That's such a good question. So I was definitely an adrenaline junkie in my like teens and early 20s. I had been cliff diving all the time and skydiving and up and moving across the country. So I loved to do, things like that put me out of my comfort zone. And so I assumed shark diving would be the same thing. I wasn't really scared like I was going to be bitten or anything like that when I went my first time. But I thought it was just going to be like another adrenaline kind of pumping thing that I could do. Little did I know when I got in the water, it was like really peaceful actually. And I was really surprised by that, how just chill they were. And again, like they are wild animals and apex predators. So if they want to, they can turn up, in a second and their behavior can change. But for the most part, like 90% of the time or even more, sharks are very chill, just peacefully swimming through the water, and it wasn't scary. Yeah, so it kind of really they got me hooked ever since I got to meet one.
Oh my goodness, that's so brave. I actually can't imagine being in that situation. And you bring groups down as well, don't you? And like guide people to meet sharks. Is that correct? That you like have groups of people? Like, how do you control a group as a leader while in amongst these wild animals? It's actually bonkers. Talk me through this. How do you do it?
Yeah, it's humans are the most unpredictable part of the whole factor. In 2020, my husband and I started our own company. It's called Kaimana Ocean Safari. And we get to take people in the water with wildlife here in Hawaii. And also, we do expeditions around the world. We have a blue shark and mako shark expedition coming up in March, which I'm really excited about. And like I said, yeah, the human factor is the hardest part of controlling a situation because really the sharks oftentimes are just behaving based off of how we're behaving. They're kind of responding to us. So if we're splashing, flailing, acting like prey, they're going to respond in that way. So it's really important that we give like a full briefing to these guys that join us in the water and tell them to stay nice and calm, relax, don't splash or flail around, and actually make a lot of eye contact with the shark. You'd be surprised that eye contact is huge and they really respect that. You just look a little bit more like a predator that way. So typically, those things are enough to sort of keep a shark at bay, just staying really calm, giving them eye contact. And then if they're coming up a little closer to the guests, I'll put myself in between them and the shark, and I can just use like my camera or the fins that we wear on our feet and just keep them kind of away from the group. Yeah, it is my favorite part, throwing myself between sharks and people. I really like doing that, which sounds crazy, but it's my favorite part of my job.
And have you had any difficult situations within that? Unpredictable, just something going wrong?
Yeah, like I said, they are sharks, wild animals, so we're always anticipating that at any moment they could like turn on like that and have that behavior change and act more like predators. So we've had those moments happen. Luckily, I have not been in a situation where I've been bitten. It can totally happen to anybody if you're working with wild animals, of course. So, but after my thousands of shark dives and not having been bitten, I think that kind of sets a precedent of like how they really are and how they behave, that they're not like the media sort of portrays them. But I have had crazy moments where, they're opening their mouths and snapping. And I had like a couple mako sharks, put my camera like in their mouth. And yeah, they scratched up my dome of the camera and all of that. So that was hectic. But yeah, so those moments definitely do happen. Luckily, like with the experience I have, I'm able to stay calm in those moments and then kind of assess what happened after. And if we need to, like me and the people that I shark dive with, we'll just get out of the water. Like, okay, this shark is, giving us signs that it's not a good time to interact with it or be in the water with it. So let's just go ahead and get out, take a little break, give it some space like that. So I think that's really important to help mitigate those like crazy moments. Just take a little break, give it space, like be able to read the behavior and ultimately just like have that respect for the animal that, yeah, it's not a great time to be in the water with that shark.
And is it a different group of sharks that you work with, or are you in the same area? And also, what happens when they're mating or when they have young, I'm not sure what you call a baby shark actually, but when you have a baby shark in the water and they've got their family and they're protective of it, do you have to stay clear of them at a certain time of year?
So baby sharks are called pups, which I think is the cutest thing
Oh,
ever. A shark that is pregnant or about to pup or even has just recently given birth or pupped may be a little bit more agitated. They've just gone through like something pretty massive that could be mood altering, or they could be, more desperate for food, nutrients that's going to help, keep those animals alive. They don't stay with their babies like, dolphins and whales and things like that. So sharks are pretty much just on their own right from birth. Baby sharks are really fun. We have a little spot here in Kona where we can see baby sharks pretty often, and they're only like this big, like they're like a couple of feet when they first come out. So they're so cute. They're actually surprisingly really like spunky. I find that the younger and smaller sharks of almost any species are like crazier than the older, larger shark species. Like they're just really spunky and feisty and come right up to you and more curious. It's kind of like they haven't really figured out what you are yet. They haven't figured out the world yet. They haven't, some of them, their diets are transitioning as they grow up. So they could be investigating a lot more things and trying to figure out all of that stuff. So yeah, baby sharks can be wild, but they're really fun. And then I do see different sharks a lot of the times when we travel, and sometimes also seeing the same sharks here in Hawaii that I've gotten to know just through the years with diving in the same location. Some of the same sharks will come back, like our tiger sharks on the North Shore of Oahu. They're like famous on social media now. I love that because everybody kind of follows along. They're like, where's Roxy? Where's Nikki? And kind of asking about their favorite shark. So I think it's really cool to have been able to get people like that interested in getting to know sharks and falling in love with them.
I love the description of the almost like the baby sharks. They're like toddlers, they're just like humans. They're investigating. They don't have that fear. They'll just go up to, like a toddler would go up to a stranger, and ask them like, what's your favorite dinosaur or something, like go straight up there. There's none of that fear. So that's so interesting that I guess
Yeah.
you can see similarities within the species. So when you're understanding the psychology of the sharks, is that based on your own experience, or is there research that you've done, or how did you kind of understand, okay, this shark feels threatened now because of this? Where is that understanding from?
Yeah, shark research is extremely important for things like conservation, understanding the animals, and ultimately protecting them. So we're very lucky at my company, Kaimana Ocean Safari. We're able to take photos of the sharks that we see and submit them to the researchers. We've been able to help them tag as well so that they're able to get the data that they need. But all of the things that I have learned have been a lot of just spending time in the water with the sharks. And it's really cool that, like, the more, it's like anything else, right? The more time you spend with a person, you get to know them. With your pet at home, you get to know their personality and things like that. It's kind of the same with the sharks. And you start to know each individual shark, and each individual shark can have a totally different demeanor, as well as like each species have many different demeanors. And that doesn't mean that things, like I always bring it back to, can't change on a dime, that they can't turn up into that more assertive behavior. But yeah, just time in the water, honestly. And then you start to really pick up on those cues, like maybe when you first go shark diving for your first couple times, you're like, okay, and you're kind of watching it and this and that, and you're kind of figuring out what to do with yourself. But as time goes on, you're really starting to be like, oh, look how that one saw what that one was doing and it bolted over, and now they're both investigating that point of interest over here. Or, when I slapped my fins, the sharks came up. And yeah, so just all these little things you begin to learn over time. So it's been really cool getting to know them even better. And I'm honestly always learning still. Every single dive, I'm learning something new. So
Oh my goodness. It's amazing the stories that you must have. You put a reel up about a shark that's particularly fast. So if that shark is speeding towards you, what do you do in that situation?
yeah, you have to definitely move a lot faster when you're dealing with a faster species of shark. With the tiger sharks that we see, they generally are moving a lot slower. So, and I swim with them probably like the most each year. So they're a more slow, cautious species. But then when we do our trips to Mexico, we're often getting to see mako sharks, and they're a lot faster. And they definitely are keeping us on our toes. I would say, just going to swim with those faster shark species like a mako shark, like an oceanic whitetip, which I see a lot here in Kona. You should be a little bit more advanced, or with people that are a bit more advanced and comfortable and have experience, because they will definitely keep you on your toes and approach a lot faster. And so you have to move a lot faster and anticipate all of those changes. So
A lot of the shark diving scenes, I guess, that I've seen before, having never dived with sharks, they've been in cages, as in the humans have gone down into the cages, and then the sharks will kind of swim around them. Is that something that you decided not to do, or is that a really bad thing to do? Does it actually happen?
I support shark tourism in all ways. It's really important to show people that these animals are worth more alive than they are dead. That we can, it sucks that it has to come down like this to humans, like what can we make money off of and things like that. But unfortunately, if we don't show that we can make more money, there's a really good benefit not only for, the ecosystem, but also our economy to keep sharks alive, be able to take people out to see them, fall in love with them, get to interact with them. You can make money off of that shark for a longer period of time versus if you kill a shark. Like I said, it sucks that it comes down to that, but that is just like the state of the world. People will go fish sharks for their fins, for their meat. And if we show those shark fishermen that, hey, these animals, if you take tourists, keep them alive, it's kind of like a win-win. So I always support shark tourism in all forms. Most the cage diving will happen with great white sharks, and that is for very good reason. They're huge, big, large animals that, deserve tons of respect. And being in a cage, I got to do it in New Zealand. I was in a cage and saw the great whites, and they're amazing. They're just so cool to lay your eyes on, even get to see something that large and powerful under the water in general. So, yeah, do it. It's awesome. There was one time that I was able to go outside of a cage with a great white, and that was in Hawaii. And that is simply because here we rarely, rarely see great whites. And there are no tours that can take you to great whites in Hawaii. That was just like a one off situation where there was a dead whale and the shark came up and was feeding on it. And yeah, it was an amazing experience, but there was no regulations about that, about, there was no cage option available. It was like, we're in this situation and go check out the shark or not. So that was really beautiful and amazing experience, and not in a way that most great whites would behave. So I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. When I saw the great white in Hawaii, she was super full of whales. She had been probably eating all night, super large and just chill. And she had a big dead whale to feast on. So we were very uninteresting as the humans there. But when I saw the great whites in New Zealand, the water is like murkier. The sharks were a little bit younger, like we were talking about, more the juvenile. They were like breaching and lunging. The food source was more scarce. And so, yeah, it really depends on the situation. I would always recommend like seeing sharks, and even just by going to see sharks, you can be helping them people change their perception of them around the world just by sharing your photos on social media or speaking up for them. And you could even be keeping them alive by getting to see them and swim with them.
You post a lot of your clips of diving with sharks online, and you've got a big following on your Instagram. But with a big following will become a lot of opinions, and negative opinions as well, negative feedback. How do you deal with that? Or do you actually respond to it at all?
Yes, that is such a good question. And, people can be mean on the internet. So it's really important to know how to deal with that. I think really in 2020 is when I started putting a lot of effort into social media. It took me a while to get used to the negativity. Now I barely even look at it, to be honest with you. Some people I'll kind of write back just so that anybody reading that can like see my responses, because, you know, people will often complain about we shouldn't be swimming with sharks or this or that, but not really realizing the full scale. Like, they might be complaining about sharks, but then they eat commercial seafood, which is like really the main thing that harms sharks. So I try to like put it in perspective that what we're doing, they might not understand, but try to explain why it can be positive for the sharks. There was actually a really cool study that just came out about the positivity for sharks social media can have. Basically, when we are posting things positive about sharks out there, then people have an automatic response that they begin to see sharks in a positive light. So you can see the study if you just go to Instagram. It's like at Shark Tiger HI. Definitely check them out. They're a local shark research organization here in Hawaii. In contrast, it also, if people post negative things about sharks, it can make people have a negative view and opinion of sharks. So when people tend to protect what they love, what they understand, what they care about. If you don't care about something, then you're not going to want to save and protect it. So by us, putting out this positive stuff about sharks, this education, or just showing how awesome they are, can make people maybe fall in love with them and then want to save and protect them. They might even change their diets or huge life choices that have, a really positive effect on sharks. So yeah, I just try to explain that as best as I could. And I also, at this point, just ignore the haters, because there's no point, and people really love to just stir stuff up and love to hate for no reason. And yeah, so if you need to, just block the hater. Like, yeah, it's my best advice.
Yeah, for sure. And as you say, there is a massive positive impact that it can have as well. And probably the majority of people will be like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that about sharks. Like I understand it so much more. And then change their view on them. But obviously that also comes with some people, maybe like it could be like 1 in 50 people. But that's generally the person that you're going to remember because for some reason our mind it always sticks with the negativity. So keeping the positivity in mind is so important as well. So yeah, it's all about balance, isn't it? And did you intend to have like a significant Instagram? Did you build that up intentionally, or was it just someday like your reels went viral and you were like, oh my goodness, like I can now share this not only with my company and the people who I'm bringing on the tours, but you have a whole global audience to share your love of sharks with.
Yeah, for me, like I said, it happened in 2020, I think, because I wasn't, going to work as much. Like we were still going into the ocean and exploring, and it was just like the way that I got to really interact with people. And we also started our business that year, so it was like, okay, like now I have to kind of take over marketing, so let's just share with people what we do and what we see. And the response was good. Like you said, for every one hater there's so many people that support you, there's so many supporters. So seeing that is awesome. So yeah, it just kind of evolved and grew day by day. Yeah, it wasn't like one day everything sort of clicked. It was just like I put effort into it and people like the response was good, and here we are today. It still surprises me. Like I, look at the numbers and it's like it's just a number. Like I'm like, "Oh, I have 2 million followers on TikTok." But then if you think about how many people 2 million is, it's like it's kind of crazy. But I don't think, we never really see it in the scale of individual people. We just see a number. So yeah, it definitely comes great responsibility as well with the more followers that you have. So really
Hmm.
important to do something good with it if you can.
And if you're in the water and it's a normal day, you're having a great time, what is something that would make you panic inside? Whether you show it, maybe you'll conceal it because you shouldn't show panic, but what's something that would go wrong?
Human error, actually. The animals and nature is like the easy fun part. Just human error scares me. Somebody, pushing themselves too much to do something that they're not ready for, or just like, yeah, overexerting themselves, or I don't know, humans scare me the most.
How deep do you actually dive?
So my deepest is actually not that deep for professional freedivers. My deepest is 115 feet. I know that sounds really deep, but there are competitive freedivers out there that are reaching amazing depths, hundreds and hundreds of feet. But I'm quite happy at my like 115. I would like to go deeper too, but freediving is a discipline, and I don't get out there to practice freediving as much as I should or could. So, always important to have goals and whatnot. But yeah, for what I do, a lot of the times the animals are near the surface, so I typically don't have to dive very deep, and I'm always, searching for the animals, so I find myself more near the surface than anything.
What happens the deeper you go into the ocean? Is it the pressure that changes?
Yeah, totally. So as you are holding your breath and diving down, you need to equalize. So it's as simple as if you're on an airplane or going up a hill when you have your ears pop, and you could do it I just did it. Whoa. By plugging your nose and pushing air out of your nose, and you'll feel your ears pop. And you want to do that as you're going down. The term that I've heard before that I really liked is early and often. So before it starts hurting, and as soon as you can, as often as you can, just start equalizing. And then you're relieving that pressure constantly, and you won't feel that, in your head. So yeah, humans can go quite deep by just equalizing.
And how long do you actually spend under the water?
Like I said, my records aren't as impressive for any like professional free divers out there. But I've held my breath for about 3 hours and 33 hours. Oh my God. Let me restart that. I was like, whoa, I'm not a marine mammal here. But I've held my breath for 3 minutes and 30 seconds, just at static, just relaxing. And, if you're dynamic swimming around, somewhere over a minute.
So is that like, do you have to almost meditate with yourself to get into that zone, or how do you even do that? That sounds like madness to me. Talk me through it.
Yeah, it does sound really interesting if you're not used to it. But the coolest thing about free diving is that pretty much anybody can do it. Like, we all have this ability. And even if you take a level 1 course, you can get up to a breath hold of 3 minutes and you can dive down 60 feet, even in a level 1. So it's a really cool skill that we all have, and it's available to all of us to learn. It's a lot about breathing techniques, especially like for me, the breathing is really important. You're able to really relax that way and slow down your heart rate, and then you can hold your breath a lot longer. So it is very meditative for sure. There are even breathing techniques and stuff on YouTube that you could check out.
And do you feel then in your normal life on land that if something happens, or you maybe have this panic rising within you, or you just need to catch your breath because maybe you're feeling, I don't know, some anxiety or something within you, do you then almost apply that to your daily life as though you are in a situation under the water or with a shark or whatever?
I think that the meditation that you learn from free diving definitely has spilled over into my daily life. And we all have stress. Like, I feel like I live a pretty decently stress-free life, but we're all human and we all have stress in the outside world and whatnot. But the great thing for me is that I have the ocean to go back to. And when I'm in the water on the boat, I'm not really thinking about all of the other things going on. So, if I'm in the water, I'm not checking my emails. I'm not like late for a meeting or whatever the case may be. If I'm in the water, that's where I am, that's where I'm present. And so I get to do that several times a week. So I think it just like keeps me pretty chill when I get to come back into my life too.
And what does the average week in the life look like for you?
So at least like 4 to 5 times I'll go on the boat, and I'm able to take tourists out to learn about the marine life in Hawaii. While we're out there, we also like to pick up trash. We do a lot of trash pickup too, which is cool. I'll do that at least 4 or 5 times a week. We'll do like a morning tour for like 4 hours, 6 with like setting up and breaking down. And then I also like to work out a lot too. So on my days off, just try to stay fit. It helps a lot for the swimming, if you do like workouts outside of that. The rest of the time is kind of, making the videos and stuff takes a lot of time. So I'll go out on the boat, like be present in the moment with our guests and get to take content and see what's out there and go explore. It's really fun because it's like a safari. So we never know what we're going to see. We got to go out and look, and then come back. And, I always have some office work too. We're running a business and making the videos. So that's pretty much what like an average week for me will look like.
Wow. I'm wondering what it's like to actually live in Hawaii, because it sounds like a lot of people's dreamy destination. But give me the reality of it, the lowdown, pros, cons.
Actually, it's funny that you said that. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a tsunami warning going off right now. It's not a real threat, but the first of the month, or like the first Monday of every month or weekday of every month, they'll set it off. So I can hear it going right now. You can't hear it, right?
I can't hear it, no.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like distracting. That's one good example, is that, you really are like out here, and there's a lot of like unpredictable elements with weather, right? Can be very unpredictable. We get in certain parts of throughout the islands, you get massive swells, which are really important for people to like be aware that the ocean is very powerful. We do have tsunami threats that come every, once in a while. I've had nothing serious in my 10 years of living here, which is like, knock on wood, awesome. I live on Big Island, so here we have some active volcanoes, and there was last year around this time, so November 2022, there was an eruption of a volcano that could have threatened communities with eruptions in the past. There have been eruptions that have threatened communities and taken people's houses and things. It's a very, yeah, it can be like a very dynamic, unpredictable place regarding like weather and the natural world. At the same time, Hawaiians have a beautiful way of looking at everything. They're very like connected Hawaiian culture with nature and the elements. And, you know, when there are active volcanoes going off, they're worshiping goddess Pele. So I think that's really, really beautiful to just get to be an observer of that and see how Hawaiians treat nature and their beliefs. It's really, really beautiful. There's a lot of cons for sure for mostly, you know, Native Hawaiians. And I don't want to speak too much on it because it's not exactly my place. I am a forever visitor of Hawaii, even though I live here and have lived here for a long time. You know, I still consider myself a visitor, and you should always do that out of respect for Hawaiians. Housing is a really huge issue. Native Hawaiians that have been here for generations have been, you know, getting displaced out of their homes. You know, we recently had the fires in Lahaina, which was absolutely tragic. People are seeing their homes and their lands getting taken away. So I always like to mention to people when they do come to visit Hawaii to just be a little bit more of like conscious travelers when they can. So if you can find ahead of coming here those small local businesses, especially if, you know, they are Hawaiian owned or Hawaiians work at these businesses, like that's always ideal.
Is it quite commercialized with big hotels and like a touristy destination?
Yeah, there's parts that are still really like old Hawaii, which is really nice and beautiful and kind of laid back. And then there's parts where there's huge resorts. So a lot of the problem has been resorts and tourism just getting placed above natives and locals as far as what's important. So one example is like water. Sometimes, you know, water is diverted away from local communities towards golf courses and things like that. So yeah, there's so many, you know, issues that have been systematic and going on for so long that I don't even, you know where to begin essentially. But
Mhm.
I always, it's such a beautiful place. And, you know, I do always like hope that everyone can visit Hawaii at some point. I think getting to like see the aloha spirit and take that back with you wherever you live is like so beautiful because their culture and way of life is just, yeah, it's really special.
And your passion was the ocean, and then you came to discover your passion for sharks, and now you've made a business out of it, and it is your profession, which is amazing. But when you pursue your passion into a career, has it taken the joy out of it at all?
Luckily, not for me. I could see how that could happen, but I still like, even if I have a day off, that's what I want to go do. So for me, I think it was just really important. I don't think that's for everyone, but for me, it was really important to like get up and do what I love as a job. A lot of people in different industries and even this industry, it's not the same case for them. I think that's just one of my personal like purposes in life.
It's so interesting, isn't it? How, like, it's the cliche of if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, which is true to an extent, but you're obviously going to have to do like the business, the admin, but stuff that you've mentioned earlier. But if you're in an industry and you've got competitors and someone who's like forcing themselves to love it, whereas if you're someone who just loves what they do, like you've got such a competitive advantage because you're not only passionate about it, but you're going to keep doing it. You're not just going to give up. You say you do it on your day off. Like, what an amazing thing to be able to do something that you actually want to do on your day off.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that is the really not fun part of running a business. But you're absolutely right that, you know, we stay motivated and able to do all of that stuff because we love what we do. So, yeah, I definitely consider myself really, really lucky for that.
People who are listening to this, maybe they don't know a huge amount about sharks. What would be like three key facts that you want them to understand about sharks in the future?
Cool. Yeah. I already mentioned two of the most important ones, but I'll kind of reiterate. So, one is that shark attacks are extremely rare. They only kill about 10 people around the world per year. So if you think about how many people are entering the ocean every single day around the world, like it's got to be millions. Only about 10 people are killed globally annually. It's pretty impressive, actually, how well they're able to determine that we're not on their general, food source. So that also that an alarming amount of sharks are being killed. I recently did a video on TikTok and I mentioned that 11,000 sharks are killed per hour and about 100 million per year. And people thought I was lying and making that up. And there is a full on study that was done to determine those numbers. And it's because sharks are often killed as bycatch, which is a huge one. And then they're also killed for their meat and shark fins. So if you don't know what bycatch is, I guess that would be fact number three. Look up what bycatch is because a lot of people don't understand that if you are, eating one type of fish, then you don't know that several other animals could have been killed just by getting that one fish that you're eating. So I think education is just important so that people just understand how commercial fishing works. And there are so many ways that you can still, support the seafood industry and fishing industry. Like if you are just a smaller boat, like average person sort of thing, or just a smaller fishing operation where you have like lines out in the water, that is going to be, more sustainable than long lining and trawling and all of these other methods of fishing. So yeah, I would recommend that people just check out what bycatch is because knowledge is power for sure.
So do you not eat any fish in your diet then?
So I'm lucky that we live by a coast, so we are able to go out and get our own seafood, ensuring that if we get that, nothing else was killed to get the one thing that we're going to eat. So nothing's like going to waste. So I support it if it's sustainable. I am not like, I'm pretty much vegetarian, to be honest, unless my husband, hunts it. So if he were to kill, a land animal, boar is really huge around here in Hawaii. So if he were to kill something like that, like I'm okay with going out and hunting and getting your own food. It's just that unfortunately, like commercial seafood industries and animal agriculture has gotten so out of control that I don't think it's like the proper way to get like a meat food source. Again, I'm lucky because we lived by a coastline, so that's easy for us to do. My husband loves spear fishing, so I'm able to have fish every once in a while. Spear fishing, I definitely support because it's so selective. Like you can go in the water and you decide which one you're going to shoot. It's not even like a reel with line that you don't know what's on the end of it until you pull it back. Like you can decide what you're going to get, and to go out and get food to feed your family or community, I think is awesome. So that's my motto. But I would say like about 95% of the time I'm just vegetarian.
Yeah, it's just the balance, isn't it? It's just similar to like what you were saying about the tourism thing. And when it's over commercialized, there's corners that are cut, there's consequences. And although maybe like it's cheaper to stay, for example, at a big resort or buy cheaper meat or fish, whatever it may be, there are consequences to that. And it's just learning about it and getting that education from that as well. And just knowing where your food's from and knowing who's providing the hotel that you're staying in and who's getting paid to work there and is it all ethical. And it's overwhelming when you think about it like as an umbrella of are you living ethically, but when you break it down into actual like applicable parts to your life, just as you said, in a very calm, simple way, because it's also so sensitive for people that it's like accusations here, there, and everywhere. But when you say it and you explain it, it's easier for people to digest it, I think.
Yeah, it's really important for me to not try or to just try to put facts out there and not try to attack people because I also understand that I'm in like a privileged scenario where I live in Hawaii where there's nature and opportunities for us to hunt and we are able to afford like the expensive spearfishing gear and stuff like that. Like we have like a privilege that we're able to do that. And not everybody has that. But so I just say, like knowledge is power, like put the education out there, and then people can make choices here and there. The one thing that I put out a lot on my social media, like in my stories and my Instagram stories, so if you follow me on there, like look out for that. But I'll put a lot of vegetarian recipes on my stories because there are so many good options that are like really affordable, like a can of black beans, you can make some like awesome tacos and whatnot. I think that's important, just kind of showing like different affordable vegetarian options. Then if you make that choice even once a week to do a vegetarian meal, you're making an impact over time. So yeah, it's just like little steps, and little steps that you're able to take within your means is awesome.
What does the future hold for you?
I would love to keep doing what I'm doing, taking people to experience marine life, to experience the beauty of the ocean. I'm looking forward to offering more trips around the world in this next year ahead. So stay tuned for that. And if you're ever in Hawaii, please come look us up. For anybody out there, we are located in Kona, Hawaii, and my company is called Kaimana Ocean Safari. You can find us just at kaimanaoceansafari.com, or I'm on like all the platforms at mermaid.kayleigh.
Amazing. So I will link those below as well so people can check them out and see some of your incredible content as well. Yeah, just the confidence that you have around the sharks. Obviously, you need the confidence. And I totally understand it when you're saying that, but just watching the videos, like everyone needs to go and look at them because just the fact, like you just push them away. And it's like, oh my goodness, that's as simple as it is. It's incredible.
I know. It's pretty amazing. Sharks are some of the best teachers, and they've taught me some of the most amazing lessons. They teach you how to stay present, stay humble, but also give you a lot of confidence and strength and power. So I'm really lucky to be able to be around them.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining the episode, Kayleigh, and talking us through sharks and why we should actually try and understand them a lot better and not just watch all the things on whether it's social media or films or whatever on it, because there's so much more to them than what meets the eye. And it's been so interesting to talk through that and what you do for your living as well. So cool and amazing to hear more about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.